Welcome in, friends, to another Sports from the Couch confidence pick here on Mercado Airwaves. It is week 2 of the NFL season, and last week we did all right. Didn't end up as strong towards the end of the games, but we are trying to bounce back and see what we have for hopefully a very successful week 2. Why don't we go ahead and start off with the Thursday night game? Carolina hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay didn't look good. I don't think Jameis Winston's that good of a quarterback, at least if Bruce Arians can make you look good, I don't know who can. Carolina needs to get Cam right, and the fact is Christian McCaffrey can't hold that offense as much as he has on his shoulders the last few years, so it's only a matter of time until wear and tear breaks him down, but I'm going to go Carolina on this one. Detroit's hosting the Chargers. I'm going to go with the Chargers on this one. I mean, I think they have more weapons. I think they're a better team. I think they're a team that should always be on that bubble to try to be in Super Bowl contention, but the Chargers are going to Charger, so I'm a little worried about them long-term, especially after losing Hunter Henry, who hasn't played football in 2 years, basically. But with that being said, Detroit, I don't know what the hell happened in Arizona last week and them letting that team come back after basically shutting them out all game and ending up in a tie, which for Detroit feels like a loss. So I'm going to go with the Chargers on that one. You got the Colts at Tennessee. Tennessee all over the Browns last week. Indianapolis, again, it is what we thought they were going to be. There was some connections with T.Y. Hilton, and I think he's a play for fantasy, but I'm going to go Tennessee with this one. Jacksonville at Houston. I'm going to go Houston this one. Here's the bottom line about Houston. They can go all the way to the Super Bowl if they can keep Deshaun Watson upright, because that offensive line is horrible. They really need to help that man, but Deshaun Watson's a beast, so I'm going to go with Houston on that one. San Francisco at Cincinnati. Cincinnati showed up a little bit. There is something to that offense, and we'll see what happens when A.J. Green comes back later on into the season. San Francisco, again, it all depends on Jimmy Garoppolo. That defense might be okay. I think they're a bottom-tier team still, but for this one at home, I'm going to go Cincinnati. Buffalo goes to New York to play the Giants. Buffalo's defense looks pretty good. Josh Allen is going to run all over that Giants defense. I'm going to go Buffalo as the road team going to the Giants and winning. New England going to Miami. Here's an interesting one, right? Obviously, New England looked amazing against Pittsburgh, and this crazy news going on with Antonio Brown, and just all that's going around here is very New England Patriots, though. And with that being said, they are in the last 6 games 1-5 at Miami. This Miami team looks really, really bad, like number 1 draft pick bad. Maybe wins 2 or 3 games bad, which means it's going to be tough to pick them at one point that they're going to win a game. They're going to sneak a game out of there. So just because we're playing for the points and we're playing the probability, I'm definitely going to go with New England, but I'm not going to put as many points as you think we are, and we'll get to that part of the show in just a little bit. Dallas against Washington. Washington not going to have Darius Geis, who essentially is going to go see Dr. James Andrews, their running back, and that's a shame. So it's going to be Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson for all you PPR people. I don't know. I don't think Washington's going to be all that great. I think Dallas is a better team. I'm not all in on this Dallas hype train that a lot of people are. But they're obviously with Amari Cooper, if he keeps playing this way like he has. We've seen what happened in Oakland. If Dak Prescott continues to flourish the way he has, and obviously with Ezekiel Elliott, with that offensive line, they could do a lot of damage. But I'm not willing to put all my money on that team just yet. I need to see more from this Dallas team. Minnesota at Green Bay. Obviously, here being in Chicago, what a dud of a game this last Thursday was with Bears and Packers. That defense for Green Bay looked pretty good. I don't know how much that had to do with the fact that Mitchell Trubisky may not be as great of a quarterback as Chicago might hope for, especially watching Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. But with that being said, I think that defense is pretty decent. And when you have Aaron Rodgers, you're always in every game. Now, they're going to have to, again, try to keep him upright. But here's the thing. If Aaron Rodgers has time, he's going to beat you. Minnesota has a really good defense. Not as good as defense as Chicago, in my opinion. I'm going to go Green Bay in this game. I think this is, again, one of those where I'm not going to put a lot of points into it, but I'm going to roll with Green Bay for a little while just to see, until we really see a pattern in this season for all of the NFL. Seattle goes to Pittsburgh. I can't figure out Seattle. The defense isn't as good anymore, and for somebody who grew up and was in high school when that Legion of Boom was really becoming something, it's kind of hard for me to see that transformation, but it's basically happened. Pittsburgh, there has to be a bounce back. So for me, I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh in this game. Seattle traveling all the way to the East Coast. Pittsburgh was embarrassed. This team does have a lot of talent when it comes to the receivers. It's still Ben Roethlisberger, but we're going to need to see that defense show up, and if you're a Pittsburgh fan, that is. And, of course, I just think the Seattle team isn't as good as maybe we all think they should be, or we're expecting the Seattle team to be. But I'm going to go with Pittsburgh at home on that game. Arizona goes to Baltimore. I'm going to go Baltimore. I think Baltimore's just a better team. Again, it just comes down to Lamar Jackson stay up. Because if he can, then we're golden, baby. That's what it's gonna be. They could keep healthy. He's been a stud when he was since Louisville, you know. Kansas City at Oakland. This is an easy one. Kansas City wins. Again, there's always some weirdness in the NFL, but that Oakland offense doesn't look good, and Kansas City looks like a Super Bowl favorite. So I'm gonna go Kansas City. Chicago goes to Denver. It was interesting. So on Friday morning, if you were gonna make these picks, you would have gone Denver. But after watching what Denver did this past Monday night, I think we're going to go Chicago on this one. Chicago has a better defense. Chicago has more weapons on offense. I think, and Joe Flacco's the quarterback for the Denver Broncos. This Vic Fangio, Matt Nagy thing is very interesting. Vic Fangio does know that offense, and he is a defensive wizard. Here's the thing, though. Chicago knows his tendencies as well. And most of his defensive players that he helped become this great top 5 defense still play in Chicago. So I don't think it's as favorable to Denver as a lot of people want it to be. And it's easy to have bias where Chicago didn't look good on Thursday Night Football. One of these two teams does have to bounce back. I'm going to go with Chicago with the bounce back. I just think they're the better team. They're the more talented team. That doesn't always equate a win, but in this scenario, I'm going to go with, for this pick and confidence, I'm going to go with them. New Orleans at the Rams, a heavyweight matchup early on in that season. How awesome was that Monday night game between Houston and New Orleans? And it came down to 2 beautiful passes and sequences at the end of the game. The Rams, again, they're finding a way to keep Todd Gurley healthy, and they're getting the offensive spread. And I like Brandon Cooks, Jared Goff. He's okay, whatever, you know. I'm going to go with New Orleans. I'm going to go with New Orleans in this thing. I think New Orleans and Kansas City are really in a collision course to a Super Bowl matchup. But I'm going to go with New Orleans in this game. How about Philadelphia at Atlanta? Again, Atlanta was one of those teams that they had their window, and it feels like it just petered off. I'm going to go with Philadelphia, who, again, looks like might be in a collision course with New Orleans to get to the Super Bowl. And finally, Cleveland take on the Jets. The Jets won't have Sam Darnold after contracting mono, which is crazy. And it looks like Le'Veon Bell will be getting an MRI on his shoulder. I don't think he's going to play week 2. I'm going to go with the Browns having their bounce back in New York on Monday Night Football. And it should be interesting to see how they respond back to a lot of the pushback for a lot of the hype that they had all season. So now let's get into where we're going to put the points on. So why don't we start off with the most confident we are? I'm going to put 16 on Kansas City. Now, mind you, even though this is a divisional game, Kansas City has the chance of going 13-3, 14-2. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out that this is not the game that they're going to lose. Well, again, they're not at home, and they are in Oakland. I don't think Oakland's that surprise team. I don't think they're going to take them lightly. So we'll put 16 on Kansas City. Why don't we keep looking down? Houston and Jacksonville, again, as long as Deshaun Watson's healthy, I think he's going to win. So I'm going to put him at 15 for now, and if I change my mind, we'll keep going. New England and Miami, again, not going to put a lot of points onto that just yet. Going to wait off. Going to push off on that one just a little bit. Why don't we look at... I was going to put Cleveland up a little bit, but again, I'm not buying all in on them. So I'm going to hold off on just a little bit. I'll put 13 on the Chargers. 14 on the Chargers. And, of course, we'll go over this in just a little bit. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook at Mercado Airwaves, you can watch us actually make these picks. And thank you for joining us on the podcast edition. We'll go over all the picks and the points we're putting on them in just a little bit. Why don't we put 13 points on New England beating Miami? So, again, I think they're going to win. But, again, that one just kind of scares me because of the recency of the last 6 games. New England hasn't looked that good there. But I'll go ahead and put 13 on New England over Miami. We'll put 12 points on Dallas over Washington. I'm really hoping that Dallas doesn't make me have egg on my face, but we'll see how that plays out. I'll put 11 on Baltimore over Arizona. I will put... I guess I will put... This is a tough one. I guess I will put Philadelphia over Atlanta at 10 points. At 9 points, I think I'm going to go ahead and put Tennessee over Indianapolis with 9 points. With 8 confidence points, I'm going to put... Ooh, this is a tough one. This is where it gets... I'll put... You know what? I'll put, with confidence points, I'll go ahead and put 8 points with Cleveland over the Jets on Monday Night Football. With 7 points, I'll go ahead and show some love to Pittsburgh over Seattle. 6 points, I'll put Carolina over Tampa Bay. 5 points, I'll put the Bears over Denver. You know what? I'll change that up. I'll put 6 points on the Bears and put 5 points on Carolina. I'll put 4 points on Cincinnati, 3 points on Buffalo, 2 points on Green Bay, and 1 point on New Orleans over the Rams. So why don't we go ahead and start at number 16. I've put 16 points that Kansas City will beat the Oakland Raiders in Oakland. I have 15 points on Houston beating Jacksonville in Houston. I have 14 points on the Chargers beating Detroit in Detroit. I have 13 points in New England beating Miami at Miami. 12 points on Dallas beating Washington in Washington. 11 points on Baltimore beating the Cardinals in Baltimore. 10 points on Philadelphia beating Atlanta in Atlanta. 9 points on Tennessee beating the Colts in Tennessee. 8 points on the Browns beating the Jets on Monday Night Football with 8 points. With 7 points, I have Pittsburgh beating Seattle in Pittsburgh. I have 6 points on Chicago beating Denver in Mile High. I have 5 points on Carolina beating Tampa Bay on Thursday Night Football. I have 4 points on Cincinnati over San Francisco in Cincy. I have 3 points on Buffalo over the Giants in New York. 2 points on Green Bay over Minnesota. And 1 point on New Orleans over the Rams in LA. Thank you guys so much for joining us on week 2 of our confidence picks here on CBS. Make sure you stay with us all over the network for all your fantasy updates, all your sports updates, and everything in the world of true crime and sports and entertainment, pop culture, all that lovely spots here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. We'll see you next time here on the Mercado Airwaves Network. This has been Sports from the Couch.